Hey friend, this is Alain Picard in the beautiful village of Roque Gageac here in the Dordogne region of France, and we are out by the river enjoying plein air painting, as you can see. So watch the rest of this video so you can see how this plein air study comes to life. Let's get started. Just so everybody knows, over there, I'm just doing a quick thumbnail sketch for my painting, which we did yesterday, so you don't have to watch, but you're welcome to. Just gonna set it up, and then I'll do the demo. All right, here we are by the river, before the chateau, and I just want to come up with a composition that takes advantage of the chateau and the reflection into the river in a nice curve, and there's a lot of complexity, and I just want to come up with a simple composition here with markers. So I'm just going to lay down.
Are you starting your demonstration, Alan?
Just going to do a quick thumbnail sketch, and then I'll do the painting. I like that little hook of the river. Maybe we'll bring that in.
So that canoe has a big giant water jug in it.
So what I'm going to do here is not really a very good drawing or anything, but just a quick little thumbnail to place some of my subjects onto the painting and see whether I have a composition that will work for me. That would be the location of the castle and some reflections coming down. See a lot of the town over here coming off the side.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna make a big adjustment. I love doing these thumbnails because I'll start with an idea or an attempt and realize, I think I can get a better weighting of my scene or flow, because I'm really not as interested in the town. I want to get the chateau and the reflection. So I'm gonna make an adjustment and really cut it off this way, somewhere around here, and open the scene up this way. So I have more of the flow in this direction. So it's such a great opportunity to think about how my composition is going to hold together in the landscape. And like I said yesterday, these are down and dirty thumbnails. They don't have to look great. They're a plan. Got the light value of the chateau, and I don't want to spend a lot of time drawing it. I just want to understand, okay, that lighter value is going to fall in this part. There's some light on the beach going this way, and the reflections in the water. That's kind of where I want to focus. So when we thumbnail, we simplify an understanding of our values. There's lots of value around the chateau and the trees. And then we just clarify those shapes. I don't think I have any clarified shapes yet, necessarily. And then I make a hard decision about how this painting is going to be designed. So I'm going to get right up and around there, here, and really make it about, you know, the chateau and its reflection in the river. This little bank here creating some curve, some S-curve as it goes this way. So truly, I need to do another one to get it right, but I think I have it. I have the idea. If I wanted to, I could just flip it. That might be smart, actually. Just flip it. It's amazing. I don't know if I've spent 7 minutes or something, but I have a far clearer sense of where this painting should go right now. So I've got the river flowing and then the bank moving out this way. I've got a nice foreground bank here, cutting into the reflection, moving around back, and then I've got this beautiful reflection of the chateau in the water that can fall right in a primary zone of the painting. Maybe a little indication of a house over here would be fun against that wall. That's it. Okay. So there's a lot of medium and mid value and dark value around the chateau, and I can take advantage of that darker value to make that chateau just pop out of the landscape. And then over here, this house just sits against the side of the composition. I'd say this is a middle dark value painting with light accents in the chateau and the sandy beach, a little along the river, and it's certainly in the water. So just a quick plan here. I feel so much more confident. I have a better sense of how to attack this painting just by investing a few minutes of my time, even outdoors. And as you can see, it's not pretty. Doesn't need to be. I actually like the idea that I can actually push out maybe some foreground tree here. Maybe a little value change there. So I'll create some dark accenting around the chateau to make it look more special. That's the, more attention on anything that's got contrast. So you can see this is a mess, but it's a plan. And in order to preserve time for the painting, I don't want to do too much more. I just want to throw a little light value in. Let that fall into the water. light values in the rocks. I'm probably going to restrain those a little bit.
Would you like us to tell you to get that?
Yes. Yeah, this is light, but I'm going to be careful because I think if I make it too light, it's going to steal from the chateau. Okay, that's my plan. Beautiful day. This has just been wonderful to enjoy this gorgeous location. So I just did that thumbnail to, try to figure out how to place this scene. And I'm still thinking I'm going to zone in a little bit more, but I love that process because it gives me a first pass at framing the scene, even on location. I try to always give myself 10 minutes to do that if I'm going to do a painting outside. So I'd like to do a wash, and there's lots of different ways to do that. One of them is to just kind of put a color down that's going to work as a really nice underpainting for everything, and there's a lot of green here. That would be like a nice opportunity to wash in something under the scene that's warmer and it's going to break up that green. Another option would be to do a local color underpainting where you're really kind of building the main values of the scene, main color shapes of the scene. If you're worried about green, and lots of green, which there is right now, even in that local color, I'm considering how can I keep that from becoming just too green, essentially. So as I'm looking at this, I think I want to break that up. I want to put something under. So instead of just doing a pure underpainting of just a complement, I'm just going to frame out the chateau, and then we'll paint under. Where I see green, I'll probably use something a little warmer, like some kind of red violet or something rusty, and then we'll paint it over so I can have something to relate the green to. So that's something for me. I always try to keep to manage the abundance of green. It's something in my color palette that I don't like to stay in a narrow band of green. A lot of times I love green, but I like less of it, not more of it. Okay? So I pulled out a few hard pastels just to sketch with, and looking at the scene, I think I'll use this red violet just because it seems to work with where I think I'm going to go. I had a blue, it's quite spontaneous. But, as I see this thumbnail, I don't want this quite that centered. And I think, but it's not bad. So I'm going to just start to sketch it in lightly, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so that main river experience coming through, I have it a little low. Maybe I'll open it up just a bit higher and go out the side. And there's a wall there, right? So just that maybe where that location, I'm always looking for those big shapes first that I can grab a hold of. And there's that embankment that comes forward with that sandy beach edge. Perhaps that will come a little further out so that I can replace the chateau. Maybe I'll bring it out here. And then, so I'm creating a nice movement in and around. That's why I chose that spot. I thought it was interesting just to let the painting move in that direction. And then, of course, we got to place our main character. Very important to have that main character. And I thought it was a little too centered, so I'm just going to look at that and maybe put the end of it here on the left. Bring this forward a little more, maybe. This bank shape, I can change it based on how the composition should look. I can make it longer or shorter. It's a shape you can modify. So there's that end, and then I'm kind of just gonna kind of box out where this chateau is gonna fall within the composition. So probably here, instead of seeing in my thumbnail, it's in the middle, and in the back one, it was kind of on the left. I've moved it steadily to the right every time. So I'm kind of showing you I did it really wrong and then less wrong in terms of my own view of where I want to go with this, and it's now finally in the paint, as I scale it out, feels like a better location for the piece. And I'm going to let it go all the way up to here. at its highest point, maybe up to here. So how do we simplify, Martin? And you look at all this, well, you look at the simple abstract shape, that's how you simplify. So that thing that falls, you know, in there, and there's one here, there's some down here, there's another spire over here. I'm not sure that my vernacular for chateaus is up to speed, but those steeples and things kind of fall there. And so,
word about composition, you know what's going on in your brain as you're putting it on there.
yeah, I was hoping that I was saying words about composition
Well,
because I'm moving the chateau. That's a compositional decision. This is a compositional decision. And
the ideas of thirds, replacement.
yeah, so totally centered. I didn't want to be totally centered. So, you know, in the rule of thirds, you can lock something here.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be perfect, but I want to just be a little, you know, there's an asymmetry to this. There's a foreground, middle ground, and I'm trying to move you up to the main point, so the movement of the composition is up and in. So there's that. So that's my main character. That's why I'm going to be a little more careful to place it more accurately. And this is a hard pastel that I can just use a little light hand. If I'm sketching, I'll either use hard or maybe a pastel pencil to sketch it in.
When you're doing an underpainting, you don't use the charcoal.
I don't use the charcoal, and you can. Nancy King Mertz does. She's incredible. But I like to keep the color within the spectrum of where I want to go with the painting. Bushes through here. I like the way the bank of that road kind of moves through the scene, so I'm just strengthening that a bit. Okay, now whenever you're going to do a wash, you don't want to draw too much because you'll just wash it all away and ruin your drawing. So I'm going to open up my soft colors now. All I really did is frame. I don't need this anymore. I framed my design in the location I would like it to be, okay? So for the underpainting, I'll put some color down and then wash it. Okay. So I see blue in the water. See all the green in the up top. I'm going to use some violets and salmons and pinks and things to start. This is a red violet neutral, not a really strong red violet. I'll put it on sort of not too thickly because I'll wash it around. This is a stronger, more red version. Maybe a little right in the top. And over here, where houses will show up. See, if I overdraw that stuff when I wash, I'll just lose it and get upset. So I'm just going to keep it simple for now. Whenever the boats go by, it breaks up the current, the river, so I don't see the reflection as much. See more of the blue of the sky, and then when it quiets down, I'll see the reflection more. I'm going to use some violet in the water for a moment. You know why? What? And because I like it. Use the colors you like. Not just what you see, but also what you love. It's your painting, you know. When I photograph things, they're accurate to nature, but in a way, but when I paint, I get to express you know, a vision of the scene. The tour guide's getting applause. Take a look for a moment. Lighter. I'm going to put a little lighter pink down where the chateau is as well. Maybe even lighter. So a word about that. I don't like to preserve the lights with pastel. So, you know, the paper in a way is resembling the color, but I want to make marks with the lights instead of preserving them because pastel is an opaque medium. So I'm going to get a little color underneath the chateau that will give us something to make marks on top of. Okay. And I'm going to put this in the bank as well, where I said I was worried it might get too light. Just bring a little color in there. And maybe I'll bring that same thing where I see some lights on the edge. Then I see it cooling down into more of a violet on the wall, which is wonderful. I like that cooling down, so I'll bring a little bit of that onto the wall. Oh, so where the chateau is, there are large bushy trees next to the wall below it. And I didn't like the way the one on the right finished at the same edge as the chateau, so I extended it further to the right just to create more asymmetry and irregularity. Thought I would just tell you that. For better or worse, we'll see. Okay, and let me get a little more color in the background. Yes, so this is a painting. So this is a stronger red violet where I see darks, like up and around the top. So I'm thinking about that complement of green, Gina, like you said. Thinking about the values getting a little richer up high around the chateau and laying that in. Maybe down in here as well. Under the darker area. Go back. Asking myself what I want to do in front of the chateau for a moment. A little strong. Let's go. Okay, there's trees in front of this, but they kind of fuse into each other from a value standpoint, so I'm not going to overthink that yet. I'm just going to put some color in and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm just going to use a little alcohol. Oh, at home I use 70% or 90% isopropyl alcohol. 70% has more water in it. 90% has, yeah?
She's giving me her chart.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to ask me something. 90% evaporates faster. This is very high, like 96%, I think. So. Yeah, you can. It just takes a little longer to dry. It's fine. But when it's hot, I mean, or if it's a dry climate, water would be fine. This is a 9x12 UART 500 board, so it's mounted and it will not warp. It's excellent for washes. All right, so let's get in there. So I'll just start with the chateau because it's clean, and I realize right now that I need some of this in the water. Again, this is not like a real drawing. This is just getting some color under some things that I can then paint over These are acrylic golden Taklon brushes. They're just flat. I like to use them for washes. And you can see the alcohol lets me stain that pigment right into the board. This is 500 grit UArt, I believe. So nice sanded surface. And I don't want that light retained because I want to make some light marks that pop on top of something with tone later in the painting. You know, whether or not all this work to do this is worth it, the jury is out, but it's fun. And if you like moving a brush and you miss that in pastel, this is a wonderful way to reintegrate the use of a brush. I'm just getting that color down and the reflection down here. Use a little extra stain, it'll just drip down in a really nice fluid way. And I suspect, even though I've never used this, that this will dry very quickly because of the 96. Come over on this bank where it's light. I'm just getting something on it. You know, pastel is an opaque medium, so you can make lighter marks over darker areas if they're not thick, if they're thinly applied. So the stain gives you that opportunity. And then over here I have a little bit of that color, right? Maybe we'll just get in on this wall. And the drips and things are okay. It depends on how expressive you want to be. I'm now painting purple trees where I see green ones. Purple trees. And I'm not really painting trees. I'm painting masses of value and color. Let me just jump over here really quick. I have another brush just so I can maybe jump into that water and throw a little more color on it. Yeah, sure. It's a little different outside, you know, you got to keep moving, but in the studio I do it all the time. I'm doing something, and that's half the battle. What is that Mark Twain quote? It's one of those procrastination quotes. The secret to getting things done is getting started, something like that. Right? You know, half the battle for an artist is to get in motion. But then once that's not a problem, because the inner artist critic is quite a strong voice, depending on our temperament, then it's like, you know, how do I motivate myself to engage with the scene? I didn't wait for inspiration with this. I was just looking for shapes and designs and a place we could all sit and not fry, you know? So that was my criteria for the painting location. I was quite inspired walking up and around the villa up there. So I'm just kind of looking at these shapes and trying to do something with them. I want to get up into these warmer reds is where I have structures here. I don't know how much they'll reveal themselves. I'm sorry, what?
Do you like doing washes better on UArt versus pastel mat?
Yep, I love doing washes on UArt. And I have tremendous experience with it from years and years. Pastel mat, I have less experience. So I'm still learning the best ways to wash on it, you know, to get those effects that I enjoy. I'm just seeing there's so much dark and it's just a bunch of trees on trees on trees. So I just need to build that value up a little bit here around the subject. As you can see, this type of underpainting can take longer, you know, you can take longer amount of time to just UArt paper? Oh, do I need? No, I would bump into everything. activates a different part of my personality that I don't want to see right now. AKA, it pisses me off. I like to be able to make marks off of the surface of my board in every direction, so that's why I mount it, do a little extra work to mount it. I love to be able to do, I can paint in a very free way right now because the board, A, because it's a board, and B, because it's mounted. It's a very...
Now buying mounted versus unmounted, how do you even tell on the website which one is which?
I can't talk about that right now, but we'll talk in the studio about it. My brain has too many things to do. One of the things I like about doing a wash is just the movement of the brush and transparency and energy in the stain. So if I find that I leave a part unfinished, it'll have life to it, like if I want to just kind of get something going with this foreground tree, that has life to it. Like if I leave a little undone later, it's interesting, or maybe it's ugly, but has life to it, and it's not green right now. So if I do want to use green and layer over it, sometimes I decide I don't want to use green at all, and I just abandon local color for an expressive interpretation. Just coming up in front of this chateau with that value of the trees. So I used a red violet that was quite strong at one point. It's interesting. See it? It's just different. Just an interesting color. I don't know. Color's a beautiful thing, and letting some of it into your painting is wonderful, and then you can neutralize it or edit it or layer it, but don't be afraid of color. We're painters. There's so many other ways to record a scene that are better than me, but what I can do is interpret. I can bring a unique view. I can express. I can make marks. So that's the joy of painting. I'm just coming over a part of that chateau where I see a layer of a wall or something. So you can see I've kind of noodled my way around that just because it's my main character, and I want it to be preserved in size and to some degree in shape. Okay, let me take a sec here. When I do a wash, I don't let any white remain. Any of these little moments where I'm being a baby, I said I'm being a baby. Where I'm afraid to get that color mixed in with that means I'm being a baby. I need to just man up, I need to be, I need to gender neutral up and just layer something in there. Yeah, that's better. I just don't want to see any of that white crackle. And I want to make sure I stain everything because that really melts it into the paper, into the surface. That little edge, I'm just gonna, I don't know, it's just fun. Washing is fun. It's playful. It's a way to break the white of the surface. It's a way to get the painting going. Look, I'm making mud, Marita.
Good.
And I'm embracing it.
I'm in great company.
Yeah. Every painting needs a little mud. But if mud's the only thing we make, we get mud in the face maybe, but we need mud in the painting for sure. Okay, so that's my wash. Did I just violate France? I did. It was just a tiny little bit. Okay, cut that out. It's in the reel. All right, so this is probably dry in seconds, and I can paint right over it, okay? I'm just putting my brushes away so I don't lose them. I just had fun and got in the mood. That's really a psychological, important stage of painting. You never, don't think you're in the mood before you start a painting. Don't wait to be in the mood. That's all hogwash. Just start. And somewhere along the way, you'll get in the mood. And if you don't, you got one step closer to a better painting the next time. So it's like notches on your cap, you know, getting closer. I'm just getting a little. Yeah, it's fun. So I'm looking at this scene. I probably fell in love with the rustic rooftop colors. I've been talking about my rooftop fetish. I have a thing for the rooftops here in France. And in fact, my whole painting is the color of French rooftops. So, so we'll see where we go from here. We don't have to go all the way to local color, but you can. We could layer green over this, the green against the red and that whole thing. And then, so now I'm playing jazz. I'm going to relate to and respond to. But the important part is this is my focal point. I don't need to paint everything, right? I can, but I don't need to. I'm just going to pull up. All right, and I'm going to try to be impressionistic. So I paint from darks to middles to lights, and then I go back and anchor the darks. So let me go back in here. I'm sort of, before I do this, I'm asking myself the question, will I go green? Sure, why not? Let's just do a little. I think it'll make the chateau a little more special if we do. In the sense that it will have a nice color. It won't get lost in the background. And I'm squinting and I'm looking at the outside shape of anything I do first. Look how dark that looks. Wow, looks so dark. Get a little bit up the value scale. Camera's in the back. Where? That's filming that. You might be in the, you're probably in the shot if you do that, yeah. There we go. Okay, so I'm just looking at that outside shape and just coming around, bringing some green. And like I said in the thumbnail sketch, I needed some dark accents up and around. So I'm just starting there. This is a soft pastel, smallish in size. Just make some marks up there. Very impressionistic, sort of little tiles of green. Let me lay some of that green in here. And I'm looking and I'm looking. I really want to just keep looking at the painting. I'm going to shift a little warmer towards the ochres. A warmer green. I went towards yellow. It's a warmer green. Now really, you know, I'm sort of disregarding so much in terms of the masses of trees. It's just suggestion. That's all it is. A little bit more of this here. Just looking at the contour shape. A contour of a subject will do so much for us, so much more oftentimes than obsessing over little details within a shape. Okay, so I've started to come around that. Now let's come into the water. Look at all that blue in the water, how wonderful it is. Yeah, let's come into the water and just bring a little bit of this green reflection, but not too much. Little yellow ochre. Warm up some of those trees in the foreground. So you can see now that we're starting to use the green family, the red is going to be talking to the green, and there's points where it's chaotic, and then once you really build your harmony and you get that dialogue going, it works, but it might look a little chaotic.
Are you always thinking warm and cool in the different colors just for contrast, or not really?
I wouldn't say always. I would say I'm often thinking it.
Often?
Yeah. Yeah, just to say it really quickly, I would think about value first, then I would think about hue, then I would think about temperature. Warm and cool is temperature, but before that I would think about its hue, before that I would think about its value. Value, color, temperature, edge. Yeah. That would be my thought hierarchy. Let's get, oh, sorry. Let's see. Start getting a little bit of that down into the water, harmonize that. And part of it for me is just liking color. Like I start to look at that yellow ochre and I just like it against some of the other colors. There's a language to it. Okay, so I want to bring a little bit of that blue-gray in. This is a very greenish, bluish gray, something in the blue-gray-green realms. This is more local as I look. It's more local to when I say that, I mean the actual color of the scene when I say local. Does that make sense? Versus when I'm just completely disregarding it and putting colors in that I like. But I see this color in the water and I enjoy it. So I'm going to use some of it here. What's that movie, Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah.
Half the battle is just looking like you know what you're doing. Didn't somebody just say it seems so easy? It's not easy, right? Half the time I don't know what's going on, but
Do it. It seems so easy. You're like, okay.
it's well, but you trust the process from years of painting, and you let yourself enjoy it. You let yourself enjoy it. That's a big thing for us artists. It doesn't have to be your next masterpiece. As soon as we think that way, we freeze ourselves up and get all jammed up and everything. I'm just going to show you something. That's the beauty of the sculptural approach. I can just modify and sculpt those shapes as long as I have tooth in the surface, and I can pull them towards something that's truer. Maybe I bring a little bit of that color down into the water. Shapes above will fall vertically below the subject in the reflection. They won't fall on an angle to the left or an angle to the right. They'll drop below toward your line of sight as the viewer. Now I also see some of this color on the rooftops here as well. Don't like this, so I want to change it so that it doesn't fight the castle. So I think what I'll do is neutralize it a little bit and maybe cool it a little. Well, let's go lighter. Cool it a little bit here. So I just dragged that violet lightly over it. Just, I didn't want to completely obliterate it. Just to start to flirt with an adjustment that can maybe quiet the warmth and the light value of that area. And then I'm going to pick up on that color in a couple other areas. It's a little heavy. I put too much of it down there, that's why I rubbed it. It's better. So the light in nature of the bank is very light. It's lighter in value than the castle. But in my painting, I don't want that because the castle's important. So as I go towards the perimeter of my painting, I'm going to make a creative adjustment, and I'm going to not let it be as light nor as, so it starts to be quieter, less important. Okay, that's just kind of a thinking about how you manage the focal zone of your painting so that it's special, so that it retains interest to the viewer, so that some other charlatan doesn't try to steal the show from the main attraction, right? Just as it's there, don't just always follow nature. The only reason I can do that is because I did the thumbnail and I thought about it and I set an intention for what this painting is about. And it doesn't take long to do that, but we need to do it. Bring a little bit of this color into the painting in I love how it goes cool here. Just bring a little into the wall over here as well. A little bit lighter. I'm looking at these little rocks and broken things down under the bank and trying to capture a little bit of irregularity there. So it's about like finding the story of the painting, finding the harmony of the painting, and then going with it. You'll notice me using this color around the painting to harmonize. The reason I'm using this lighter color over here is just to balance out the weight over here. And it's not necessarily right yet, but just to counterweight the left side so it doesn't fall over on the wall, right? If you're looking at the painting and it does that, we want to weight it so it... Let me just clean my fingers. I like the way this color as a little accent relates against the underpainting. Forgot to take my garbage bag out. Okay, let's just do a little more here to bring some understanding. Just prepping a couple of blues to use. So this is like a challenging area because it's so dumpy. It all just falls into the rest of it. So I'm thinking about it as how to separate it. And yeah, I don't have a great answer for you, but I'm going to try something. They're falling out of the canoe. And they're down! That was awesome. Sorry. Man down. 2 down in the river. That was awesome. Wow. They fell into the river. Did you see it? So I'm going to bring a bit of warmth into this foreground shape. without making it too important or overstating, just bring some warmth. A little bit of color on that bank. Martin, my Roche. I can hear it. Look, it's not too big. Oh, it's just the right green ochre. I like the green ochre. Well, like I said, we're making a painting here. I took a bunch of photographs, but I want to relate to this scene in a different way in the painting. And that's just, I'm enjoying that, you know, and I'm learning. This is an opportunity for me to learn. But, you know, the day I stop learning how to paint, is the day you'll see me at my memorial service, I guess, if you still like me.
10 toes in the air.
You know. Send a card to my kids. All right, so I'm going to put something into the, I don't know what the right answer here is, but I'm going to think about how I can, oh, I'm leaving that area now. Who cares? All right, that's another statement on how do I simplify. Well, that's not horribly important. I just want some separation. So I'm starting to suggest that, and I'm going to walk away. All right, so I have some kind of light ochre here, and I'm going to start putting a little something in the castle to I just want to make an adjustment over here. There we go, that's better. Oh, I want to make a comment about, you know, vocabulary. Mark making is vocabulary, right? And we tell the viewer how to relate to our painting in terms of how to dialogue with it. So if I start putting precise detail into this, I'm saying to the viewer, oh, now I want to talk to you about that in a very specific way. And that's going to make me have to do some other things. And so, but if I do this kind of stuff, I'm telling you, this painting's about tiles of color and light, and I want you to relate to it that way. So, you know, you don't, you know, and sometimes a lot of detail in one shot and then kaboom is really exciting, but you know, you're governing that conversation when you paint. And it can be very loose and semi-abstract and wonderful, or it can be very hyper-realistic and wonderful. Depends on you, right? Yeah, yeah, sure. Like a face of an animal against the wildlife, you know, I'm against nature, you know, a really realistic head of an animal, and then is awesome, right? I do that in portraits a lot. I think it's a really fun way to bring diversity into that expression. I'm gonna try to lie to the viewer about textures on structures without actually doing anything. That's my hope. It's kind of like, oh, there's stuff over there that has structure to it, but we don't really want to draw it. Because if I draw it too much, I'll draw a bunch of attention to it. A little shadow under the rooftop thingy. That's the French word for it. Yeah. Poor kid. So I'm back to my red violet that I was using in the underpainting just to harmonize. Just to bring that color and let it talk to the others. What's that?
I prefer your painting than the castle. I mean, it's like that.
Well, we can make a magical interpretation of a magical place. twice magical. Meaning like our imagining of it, right? I'm just picking up on little notches of color and light. I'm not trying to draw the castle necessarily. Do you see the difference? Yeah. And that's that kind of language of simplification. All right. I want to put something in the back to the light value real quick. Okay, hold on. I do want to get this right. I got a little square piece of Terry Ludwig here. Just trying to get a little edge up there. Sometimes I just want to keep it loose. I don't like that one. Ooh, sorry. Okay, got a little yellow in there, but I think I'm more into the pink side of the story here. So I'm gonna shift gears. So I'm using a peachy pink instead of the yellow. I think it works better with the palette. That mark that's a wrong mark, but it's not horribly wrong, but I'll just take the end of it off. Or chop at it a bit. So what I'm most interested with the chateau is this wonderful little graphic kind of shape that is carved out of the forest or the trees, carved out of the trees. It's lower on the left. I'm just squinting my eyes and getting a little zen with it, like just trying to see how it feels. And then maybe from the top to the bottom. I want to neutralize the side of that just to give it something. Testing this color. Oh gosh, it's terribly warm. I put the color on my painting to see what it would do, and it jumped forward as a real warm, so I got rid of it. Went back to a neutral grayish violet. What time is it? Okay. So I'm gonna finish this in 5 minutes. You guys got to eat, right? Yeah. Just gonna try a little blue on the water here and there. So I'm just using a little blue. We don't ever see the sky, but it's up there. And just trying to play with it. We don't see the sky, but now the water tells us it's there, right? And I want something a little bit purpley somehow. That was somewhat of a lie. I don't even know what that is. It's kind of an extension of the bridge. It's a very strong color, maybe too strong. Go back to the underpainting a little bit. I think that's enough over there to tell you, oh, there's some buildings, at least for a plein air study. Just trying to use a few bigger marks in the water just so that they're there somewhere. Mark making variety, bigger, smaller. And then yeah, well, you know, mine's done because we got to eat. But the point of that is make it like give yourself a deadline. Do a painting in an hour and a half. You know.
Really? That's good.
Yeah, 90 minutes. You're done. You can noodle it back in the studio to resolve some problem, but I just want to take this strong chromatic violet and neutralize it the slightest bit. I felt that it jumped a little more than I'd like it to. Cool that rooftop a touch. I'm just adding a little sharpness to the top of that. Paint the boat, quick. So yeah, and staying true to your vision as with the painting is important. All right, so that's pretty good. I you know, the things that I'm looking at are like strengthening the value shapes and in the water, but I don't know. I don't think it's that important. It's a study. It's fun. Okay. Kind of asking myself, like, does the reflection make sense? Not totally, but it's could be a little more like up and down.